Hey, thanks for checking out Nuts and Bolts with Tone, and welcome to my channel. Today I have a 2020 Ford Transit. I'm going to show you how to replace the fuel pump, which requires dropping the fuel tank. Now this one's been upfitted for a generator, so let's check out what that looks like. Alright, so for the generator upfit is, we got this little fuel pump here, some fuel lines connected, you got a connector, a harness that lays right across the front of the fuel tank. And I've got it blocked off here. They got a little filter here. It's kind of cute. Reminds me of carburetors. So here is the fuel line that attaches. Okay, so all I did was disconnect that clamp right there. And you're going to want to use a little bit of Sil-Glide and a pick because it's a little tiny plastic line that goes in here. And so I was able to stick the pick in there and run it around. And then I was able to pull the line out. You don't want to break the line. But anyways, so the upfit line, it comes up through here, it lays underneath the fuel lines. We'll look at that when it's back together. But so here's what the fuel pump looks like. Here's the main fuel line that comes in. It's a returnless fuel system. We got the evap system that hooks up. So here's that little upfit nipple right there. That's where the line connects. And it has a pickup tube that comes all the way down. Now you're going to notice it sits on the outside of the fuel level sender. It should be on the other side of the fuel level sender. That ended up being our problem. Need a green O-ring here, and there's a check valve in the tank. You can see right now I got no fuel coming out, and this tank is at least half full. So the tank is above the filler tube here, and no fuel came out. So I took this out yesterday, so I put this underneath it just in case any fuel dribbled out of there. It would catch it. So when we get the new pump, let's take a look. Now to get started, dropping this fuel tank, there's an evap line over here you're going to have to disconnect right there. Now to disconnect this line, there's going to be at one tab on each side. You're going to push it back like that. And then once you've pushed them both back, you're going to pop them down. Once you get that evap line disconnected, you don't need to disconnect the other end. You can leave it. But you're going to disconnect both of those evap lines right there with the brownish tabs and that fuel line up there. To disconnect that fuel line, there's 4 green tabs you can see. You have to pull them out away from the fuel line on both sides. And then once you have all 4 pulled out, you will be able to slide the clip up, and then you can twist the fuel line off. Don't forget those 2 evap lines up there. The line that connects right up there to the middle of the long fuel line, you're going to disconnect that because these 2 fuel lines are going to stay with the tank. And that's why we disconnect this evap line, because those 2 lines are going to come down between the canister and the vent. Then we're going to make our way over to where the filler net connects. It's going to be a single hose, 7mm clamp. You're going to undo that clamp. Now my tank is over half full, so the fuel is above that filler neck. I only had a little tiny bit of fuel dribble out. Not sure what the internal of this tank looks like, but you may want to put something underneath there just in case. You're going to have 4 13mm bolts on each side. There's 4 clamps. Now the way I support it is in the middle. So these 2 clamps are in between the jack and the tank. The front one comes out completely, and the rear one, I just unbolt it and slide it and spin it out of the way. So you're going to have a wiring harness that runs along the frame, and it's going to have 2 clips. It's right up there. You're going to pop those 2 clips out, and then that gives you a lot of room with the wiring harness to drop the tank down to be able to disconnect the connectors on top of the tank. Then you just want to go around the tank and make sure you've got everything disconnected. So here's what it looks like when it's down. You're going to have 2 clips like that, and they're going to pop in right there on the frame. Once you pop those down, you can see you have a lot of room to move this tank down. You're going to have your 2 connectors. One's going to be to the fuel line there, and the other one's going to be to the fuel pump. And then you're going to have 2 fuel lines to disconnect that are the same, one with the red clip and one with the green clip. You're going to take the 2 tabs and lift them out like that, and then the whole clip is going to push out and the line will twist off. Then you're going to disconnect this big evap line. You got this red clip here. Take a pocket screwdriver and stick it in that little hole. It's going to pop up one time, and then the fuel line's going to come off. Make sure you've disconnected the green clip the same way as the red one. You're going to disconnect both of these lines. You're going to come over here and pop the line out of the tank, disconnect it from the rear, and move that whole fuel line assembly off the tank. Then all you got left is to disconnect this plastic housing here and your ring and your fuel pump. So before you get started here, what you want to do is take an air nozzle, blow all this off. Now this housing here with these big plastic pieces to protect the fuel lines, it has to be oriented in a certain spot. The metal ring that holds the fuel pump down has the studs that little housing bolts to. So you need all of that to be oriented in the same spot. So what I would do is take a paint marker and put a dot on the metal ring, the plastic, the ring with the plastic tabs that stick up, and the fuel tank, so you know how they all orient together, because you don't want to put it on and have to take it back off. So what I like to do on the evap lines is I take a little bit of Sil Glide and I put it around all of the nipples that I'm going to be connecting to, because on the inside of each one of these lines, there's an O-ring. And if that O-ring tears, when you slide the line on, it's going to have a leak. So what you want to do is get both of these lines in place. Now this one has that upfit line underneath, so I got to be careful. So you want to slide both of them up and wiggle them and push them. And when you think you have it on, you're going to try to connect your clip. If your clip doesn't feel like it's connected right, it's not on all the way. So you want to make sure that you connect both ends. The line should clip on and the lock should click in. So what I like to do is once I've pushed them on and clicked the locks in, I like to grab the line and give it a twist or a pull depending on the situation to make sure that it's locked in place and it's not going to let go. If you have that lock on the wrong side of the fuel line, it'll pop off. Make sure this connection is on. Now this is just to protect that nipple because nothing connects there, because this is a returnless system. Then you want to make sure that you've connected all the fuel lines and popped them back in their places on the tank. Now once you've got that connected, you're going to come through and you want to double check all of your fuel lines. Now all I have left is the front fuel line, the actual fuel pressure line. Now you should hear it click when you push it on. Sometimes you don't hear the click, but you want to make sure that you hear it or feel it. You're going to click that lock on and you're going to give it a nice tug or a pull, because that one you definitely don't want to leak, because that'll be a fuel leak. And then here you're just going to connect all your fuel lines into your tank. Now this is a long tank with a lot of connections, so just go over the whole thing and make sure you didn't miss anything. You're going to make sure you put a new O-ring here, and also pay attention when you pull the pump out which way the pump was oriented to be in here. So just in case you're not sure, this one actually says locator here, so the big white locator goes here, like that. Now on this one here, you have this plastic piece. So let's say it came off and you didn't know where it goes. So the way that you have to make sure of on this thing here is you got to make sure that this opening right here is like this, because all three of these fuel lines come through here. This protects this nipple here. You have this spot here where this line comes through, and then this right here where your electrical connector comes out. So I laid this out the way it went, but all you do is you push your fuel pump down, and sometimes you need help, and you're just going to hit it with a hammer and it's going to seat all the way. You just need to make sure that it goes all the way like that. And then we're going to go ahead and bolt this on and hook up all the fuel lines. So on the underside of your fuel pump, now this one's a little bit different because this one's been upfitted. But this one has the return, this nipple right there was cut off. So I had to go talk to the manager. And originally, I didn't notice that the fuel level arm was stuck. And so this pipe here that goes for the upfitter, it came down and it was on the outside of the fuel level sender arm. So the fuel level sender arm is only able to come up a little bit. So this thing had whatever problem it was in the beginning, we replaced the fuel pump and somebody didn't pay attention to that little upfitter thing. And so it blocked the fuel level sender, which is what I'm addressing as the fuel level sender. So you want to make sure that you have that bent in the correct way. And if you don't have a modification for this, then you don't have to worry about it. So with the tank out, this is what it looks like. I disconnected the fuel line up here. Show you when it's back in the car. We got the evap that comes through here. We got a small evap line here. Do not forget to connect that. This one here came back because the fuel gauge wasn't working, and somebody had replaced the fuel pump because of the evap, the broken nipple. And then I got it to diag. This is a 2020, so I had to use the brand new Ford FDRS scan tool to command anything. But anyways, so here's this little evap line that's going to connect here. So don't forget that. This is probably the third transit that I've had where that line was disconnected. So everybody forgets that line. It's going to come up here. Because this is all a plastic assembly and it's all kind of attached, you don't want to mess with it. So I went ahead and disconnected it here and disconnected both connections here. I'll show you when I get the pump, when we're going to do the pump. But the lines come through, they wrap up here, and they go up around the canister, and they go up there. So we got this disconnected so we can get to everything. This is a very long fuel tank. So when I was doing the diag on this thing, the FDRS needed to know what size the fuel tank was for the evap test. This transit here can come with, I think, 6 or 7 different fuel tanks, all the way up to like 60 something gallons. So you can see it's pretty long. You're going to want to strap it on one end, depending on what kind of jack you use. I got a strap here that I went under the fuel lines because you don't want to go on top of these fuel lines because you have to disconnect them. So the strap goes underneath, and I just have it strapped to the jack. If you're doing a floor jack, if you got a friend, whatever, not a big deal. But if you're using some sort of tranny jack, our jack here goes from here to here, so it's a pretty good span for a fuel pump jack. And yeah, so we got multiple hangers. We got one hanger there that all I did was unbolt it here. I loosened it here. Took the other one off, which goes over here. And then I just rotated it out of the way so I don't have to take it out. So it's there. So that one comes back here. And you're gonna have 2 straps that are gonna stay with the tank, depending on how you take it out. If you use a transmission jack, you're gonna have 2 straps that stay with it. And then the strap in the front comes out. After watching this video, you should feel pretty confident dropping the fuel tank in one of these transits. This one's quite large. Just pay attention before you drop it down what size tank you have so you can make sure you don't drop it down and have the wrong fuel pump or whatever it is, for whatever reason you're dropping it. So I'm starting to see more and more of these transits that are upfitted. This one here was pretty cool. I like the idea of just upfitting the fuel line down to a fuel pump, running through a filter, going right through the fuel pump in the tank, and pulling gas all the time. But you know, also you got to be careful when you have upfitted things that you don't put the fuel pickup on the wrong side. You know, things like that. Little details you have to pay attention to. So, thanks for watching the video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, you get notified of all my future content, which you definitely don't want to miss. Thanks for watching. See you next time.